Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today I have a question for you. Is it okay to challenge, question, review, double check, and even dismiss the statements made by academics in high academia? Now, you might consider this to be a little bit of a tricky question, and I do understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have 17 PhDs, who do you think you are, right? To challenge the idea that someone with said PhDs and expertise is telling you that this is how the facts are, this is what happened historically, or linguistically, or whatever the heck the field is, and you're just supposed to accept it because, I mean, they have the degree and you don't. Or perhaps you do, but it doesn't matter because maybe they have more degrees than you. And even if you are actually the one with more degrees, for some reason, it sounds like sometimes the degree part is not even really what the core or the foundation of the expectation or what the media pushes. We could say that in reality, when it comes to the rewriting of history, what happens oftentimes is that an authority, whether it be a government or not, decides that this is what happened in history. Then they use a person with an academic background to push this to the masses, usually in conjunction with modern media, and then they expect the public to accept it because, I mean, the experts said it. Well, let's just say that when it comes to this topic, I do have a thing or two to say. For clarity of speech and mutual understanding, I would like to now clarify what I mean specifically by the rewriting of history. Because of course, before we can attack proficiently any point, we need to first define it correctly within the parameters of academic discourse. The first thing that I would like to do is to differentiate the term historical rewriting, or the rewriting of history, with historical revisionism. The process of rewriting history represents a fundamental and indispensable aspect of historical scholarship. And that is because the methodological approach, when done correctly, serves as a crucial mechanism for advancing our understanding of the past, provided that it adheres to rigorous academic standards and remains firmly anchored in empirical evidence. In other words, there is nothing wrong with rewriting history or changing the way we explain the past and certain events, provided that these changes are based on documented evidence. Rewriting history isn't wrong, it is wrong when it's done for the wrong reasons, aka pushing a political agenda, pushing a message, and, of course, at the expenses of the truth. So we could say that the legitimate practice of historical rewriting emerges from the discovery of new primary sources, the application of novel analytical frameworks, and the implementation of advanced research methodologies and new emerging technologies. In fact, it's obvious that whatever they thought in 1600s is not going to be the same as what we think in 2024 if we have better machines and analytical methods, whether it be disruptive or non-disruptive, image spectroscopy, just to mention one, which of course they didn't, and so we uncover new truths and we can then change the way the history books are written based on the evidence. However, whenever I discuss the fighting of historical rewriting, I'm actually talking about the counterpart, the ideologically motivated historical distortion. This manifests itself when historical facts are purposely manipulated, selectively presented or contextually mispresented to advance, say, a contemporary political ideology, an egregious violation of scholarly principles. It undermines the fundamental integrity of historical research. Therefore, it should be called out, and it doesn't matter if the person who is being used as a tool happens to be an academic. Their qualifications, once they go outside the scope of the academic methodology of research, mean nothing. At that point, their title is forfeit. This distinction between legitimate revision and ideological manipulation lies primarily in the methodological approach and the reasons behind it. Real historians, real academics, real linguists all proceed from evidence to conclusion, maintaining as much as possible fidelity to primary sources. All of this acknowledging the limits of our human minds, the boundaries of our current technology, the possibility of selective bias, which we can try to be as unbiased as we want, but a little bit of bias is always present, which is always why a group functions better than a single individual, and last but not least, the inherent complexity of historical research. Conversely, ideologically driven revisionism begins with the desired conclusion and selectively marshals evidence to support it. It utilizes and fosters predetermined narratives, disregarding contradictory evidence or opposing viewpoints. That in itself is not the academic method. In fact, as someone who does research and has a full team of academics behind my production, we welcome any person who wants to challenge our theories, our hypotheses, and the facts that we present. Because at the end of the day, it is only through challenge that intellectual discourse can help us to reach the one thing that we should all collectively try to achieve: the truth. I have 1,000 videos, challenge all of them. Theses, theories, data analysis. It's all created to be challenged. It is also a fact, as we look at it historically, that paradigm-shifting discoveries and theoretical advances do emerge from challenges to established academic consensus. And these were often historically initiated by those willing to question prevailing orthodoxies despite institutional resistance. Say, Copernican revolution, the development of continental drift theory, and numerous other scientific advances emerged through the willingness to challenge established authorities. That is because even though we should always be defenders of truth, defenders of history, we also have to be very careful not to overstep, because that can lead us to a phenomenon called the cognitive entrenchment, where you will be so focused on defending the history how it's been told to you that you end up resisting even coherent challenge. This is why a balanced approach is always the most correct approach. In other words, if you have a musical instrument with chords, pinch it too hard it's gonna break, and if you don't pitch it enough, it's not gonna make any sound. We have to maintain, as passionate individuals, as history enthusiasts, as people who want to know what actually happened and how can we find the best way to define civilizations in the past, we have to be able to find and discern between wrong interpretations and manipulations of facts that are based on nothing from new interpretative frameworks that instead can help us fight institutional inertia and redefine academic pronouncements within boundaries of documented reality. This is the norm in academia. No true academic or historian will ever consider an attack to their arguments as a personal attack. If they get offended, they are not real academics. Or maybe they were, but they stopped being such. The idea or the willingness to change established paradigms and interrogate received wisdom is the basis of knowledge. But these days, this keeps happening in a way that is dangerous, and people use advanced degrees as a way to become puppets for money, for clout, to sell books, or just to receive sort of social gratification, inconsequential. Are they telling the truth or not? This is the ultimate parameter of evaluation of a person's dignity and quality of information presented. The truth. I would consider this to be a sort of ethical imperative in our current economic, social, and political environment. To challenge assertions becomes paramount. In the information era, the potential for misinformation to proliferate through the weight of social media and active engagement, backed by massive corporation and authority mechanism, require an engagement that is active in corrective discourse. At the end of the day, if they have the truth and it's backed by facts, what are they afraid of then? Whoever you are, if you're an academic, you're a historian, you make a certain statement in front of a camera, and here comes me, your nemesis. I make a video, debunking video. I attack your argument. If you've got the truth, you've got nothing to fear. You just present the evidence and debunk me. And yet, they either stay silent, or if they speak, they attack ad hominem. Another reason why I think we should, as a collective, stand against the rewriting of history is because of the sort of implications that can occur certain people in academia, backed up by a government, could end up doing if they are left free of all sorts of intellectual challenges. In other words, if people are too afraid, then they win, and you're letting their mental manipulations have the better of you. But no, that isn't academia. Luckily, within modern academia, you have a bit of both. You have fantastic historians, you have fantastic researchers and experts that leave the politics outside of the history, of the research, of the data analysis, and just present us pure facts. Because that's the beauty of the truth. Facts don't care about your feelings. Facts are facts. The truth is the truth. And so, whenever you expose the true nature of fact, you're not taking any side at that point. You're only taking the side of the truth. Then I will respect you as an academic, and your personal politics mean nothing to me. It's your freedom. In the contemporary intellectual landscape, the imperative to maintain rigorous epistemological scrutiny of academic assertion, regardless of their source's credential, stands as a fundamental cornerstone of scientific and scholarly progress. The mere possession of advanced degrees or prestigious institutional affiliation, while certainly indicative of specialized knowledge in whatever domain, should not automatically confer immunity from critical examination or intellectual challenge. Another aspect of this phenomenon that I would like to discuss is when academics or experts venture outside their fields of expertise. In other words, you have a primary domain that you have dedicated your PhDs, your studies, your degrees, your bachelor degrees, whatever you have, and that gives you a certain credibility. Well, that credibility should not be considered, however, as an ultimate authority when you start going outside your field of expertise. You will have people who are like, oh, this is a medieval historian, and then they start talking about metallurgy even. Well, he's not a metallurgist, and oftentimes they do make mistakes in that field, but people still consider them credible, even though you have got this sort of credential spillover, if you will. The assumption that expertise in one field necessarily translates to authoritative knowledge in another is nonsensical. It is a form of intellectual overreach. There is nothing wrong with it. You can absolutely speak about aspects of fields that are not part of your primary domain, but you should be upfront with it. And most importantly, you definitely are not immune to criticism. I'm not immune to criticism, and neither should all of these academics that go in front of a camera and start speaking about something that is outside what their degrees were all about. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth. After all, I think the final message that I'm trying to deliver here is the idea of fostering critical thinking. Always double check what everyone says. Could be me, could be a team member of mine, could be another person, could be a completely different channel, and it can be an intellectual opponent of mine. Use systematic evaluation of evidence. I mentioned Polybius. Find the passage. We both have a different interpretation of an ancient Greek passage from whoever the author is. Look it up yourself. And if you don't know the language, consume more content from specialists that can help you have different perspectives. If there is 2, 15, or 300 people discussing a topic, that's advantageous for all of us, because then you have more points of view, and having different perspectives will help you place any theoretical idea, point of discussion within a three-dimensional frame, a more complete picture. Last but not least, I would like to discuss the socio-economic implication of intellectual gatekeeping. It's something that can put us all together. Knowledge belongs to the people. And considering the fact that depending on what country we are talking about, oftentimes academics are people who are wealthy, because studying and getting degrees takes a lot of money. Now in my case, I luckily got my degrees thanks to the sacrifices of my parents, my own personal sacrifices of working as a waiter while I was trying to pay for my books, but also because I focused so much on it that I ended up getting 3 scholarships. So I paid for it all through those scholarships and got my degrees without having really to spend much money of my own. But a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people have the intelligence, but they don't have the degree because their family couldn't afford it. If we only allow high academics to speak and no one can challenge them, not only we are wasting the great reach that online information gives to people, but we don't just lose systemic inquiry. We create a gatekeeping of historical facts, linguistic facts, and knowledge in general based on economic dependency. In other words, only the rich can talk. Now, whatever your political positions may be, I think you can have a problem with that. Now, it goes without saying that I'm not a mathematician, so if a mathematician says something and I have absolutely zero knowledge of what he's saying, I may not be equipped to be able to even recognize if what he's saying is true or not. Although then again, oftentimes when that happens, the problem is not really with me or you, the problem is with the mathematician who wasn't able to simplify whatever presentation he was sharing with the public. At the end of the day, there is a difference, and any teacher can back this up. There is a massive difference between the way you express a thought to specialists as opposed to the public in general, particularly when you're using TV. And that's why I'm not speaking to you as an individual, but I'm speaking to you as a collective. Collective minds can strengthen each other. Communities can build a sort of intellectual prism that can give an equalizing power even to those people who couldn't go or afford a higher education. Also because, let me state this, and please clip it, a highly educated individual is not the same as a highly intelligent individual. Sometimes you have people who are very educated and very intelligent, other times you have people who are extremely uneducated but very smart, very intelligent. And of course you've got people who are very educated and are absolute idiots. Levels of education, unfortunately, have more to do with your socioeconomic background than they do with your actual IQ and intellectual capacity or cognitive abilities. I would like to now close with the importance of freedom of speech, and I will make a video dedicated to freedom of speech through the ages and what happens, at least historically, when freedom of speech is removed. Our ability to disagree is in fact part of those freedoms that our ancestors fought for. You are free to disagree. You are free to be wrong. Free speech is a legitimate heritage that you have regardless of your personal credentials. The role of freedom of expression in this specific context extends beyond mere tolerance of alternative voices. It is a form of protection that can encompass not only the formal right to speak, but also safeguards against informal mechanisms of suppressions, whether they be social ostracism or professional retaliation. Any legitimate critique should be considered as part of a symbiotic system between academic discourse and the search of truth. In essence, freedom of expression serves as the essential foundation upon which meaningful academic discourse must be built, and it provides the necessary conditions for the challenging of established paradigms, the introduction of novel perspectives, and the maintenance of intellectual accountability, honesty, and rigor. Now, do notice that even though I do have a field of expertise, sometimes I do venture outside of it, but I'm upfront with it. I let people know. I either tell them that what I'm sharing is just my personal opinion, but I'm not. You should take everything I say with a pinch of salt. Or I tell you, no, this specific research, yes, I'm talking or tackling a topic that it's usually outside of my field of expertise, but I have an academic in my team and it's their field of expertise. And so this is the result of their help. I'm always very upfront about it. And with that, I would like to conclude this brief video essay of mine. Thank you so much for watching. Keep asking, keep challenging, keep searching for the truth. And remember, the Metatron spread his wings. Goodbye.